It's funny how quickly your world can unravel without warning. One moment, everything feels like it's in place, and the next, you're left standing in the wreckage, trying to figure out how it all went wrong. My cousin Kelly stole the money I'd been scraping together for my son's surgery. "Don't worry, he'll be fine. Babies bounce back," she told me, her voice too light, too careless, as she tossed her passport into her purse and booked a flight to Paris. A week later, I was still numb, replaying her words over and over in my head like some twisted joke. It wasn't until Kelly posted that photo, her smiling glass of champagne in hand, a carefree selfie on a plane, that something inside me snapped. At first, I thought nothing of it. But then I saw the next shot. Her Louis Vuitton luggage, gleaming under the airport lights. That's when I knew. The money I'd been saving, the money that was supposed to save my son, was gone. I'm still trying to piece this all together. It's been 48 hours, and I'm left with more questions than answers. Maybe if I write it down, it'll make sense. Maybe not. But I have to figure out what to do next, before I lose everything. My son Coey is 7 years old, and he's been struggling with a birth defect in his leg that makes it hard for him to walk properly. It's not life-threatening, but it affects everything he does. The doctors said surgery would change his life. He'd walk, run, and play just like other kids. I've been saving for 2 years. Every extra shift, every weekend, every holiday, everything went into the fund for his surgery. $12,200. Not a fortune, but when you're a single mother working in a factory, that's everything. I kept the money in a separate savings account, watching the balance grow slowly, always checking it with Co beside me. Sometimes we'd dream together about what he'd be able to do after the surgery. Kelly had moved in with my sister Violet 3 months ago after losing her job, and she often visited us, playing with Co, buying him little gifts. Looking back, the signs were obvious. She'd ask about the surgery date, the payment plan, which account I kept the money in. I thought she was just being involved, showing interest in something important to me. Last Thursday, I logged into my account during my lunch break to transfer some money, and the fund was empty, completely gone. I called the bank immediately, and they confirmed that several small transfers had been made to another account over the past week, probably to avoid detection. My stomach twisted into knots. I tried calling Kelly. No answer. Texting her. Silence. Then came her Instagram stories. First the airport, then the champagne, then the Eiffel Tower. Each post hit like a blow to the head. She wasn't even trying to hide it. I called Violet, hoping for some explanation, but she was as blindsided as I was. Kelly had mentioned Paris, but she insisted it was something she'd been saving up for herself. "I had no idea," Violet said. "She used my Wi-Fi, sometimes my laptop. I'm so sorry." Co asked me why I looked so upset the other day. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that the person he trusted has taken away his chance at a normal life? He showed me the Eiffel Tower keychain Kelly had given him last week and said, "Look, it's like where Cousin Kelly is now." It hit me. The same keychain she probably bought with the money meant to give my son a future. I finally caught up with Kelly this morning on WhatsApp. Her profile picture showed her sitting in some cafe with a croissant, looking entirely unbothered. When I demanded an explanation, her response made my blood boil. "Oh, come on, Harvey. You're being dramatic. It's not an emergency surgery. He'll be fine. Babies heal quickly. Besides, I really needed this trip. You can imagine how dreary it is to be unemployed. I'll pay you back. Someday." Someday. As if my son's future had to wait until she got around to being less selfish. I've documented everything, texts, times, translations, every single detail. I'm not letting this go. Kelly seems to think that because we're family, she can take whatever she wants without consequences. She's about to learn that's not true. Violet's helping me figure out the next steps. The bank is investigating the transfers, but they warned it could be complicated since Kelly had access to my Wi-Fi and devices while living with us. She knew exactly what she was doing, manipulating everything to make the transfers look like they came from my IP address. The surgery was scheduled for next month, but now I have to cancel it tomorrow. Just thinking about what I'll tell the hospital makes my stomach turn. Co's been marking the days on a calendar, talking about playing soccer with his friends after he recovers. I'm not asking for advice on whether to file a police report or take legal action. That's already decided. I'm going tomorrow morning. What I don't know is how to break this to Co-A. How do I tell my son that his surgery isn't happening? How do I explain that the person he loves chose a vacation over his ability to walk normally? Kelly keeps posting from Paris. Designer shops, fancy restaurants, tourist spots. Each post screams that she's spending my son's future on herself. She even posted a photo of a donation box at Notre Dame with the caption, "Feeling blessed to give back." I've turned off her notifications, but Violet keeps sending me screenshots. "You need to document everything," she says, and she's right. Each post is a confession of where my son's money went, and now some of our relatives are trying to smooth things over. They say she's having a hard time, they say. She'll pay you back. As if that somehow makes this all okay. As if my son's childhood is just collateral damage to Kelly's hard time. I won't back down. Not this time. Co deserves more than she ever will. Update. Kelly just posted another story. She's holding a glass of wine on a rooftop captioned, "Living my best life." Sorry, not sorry. Keep spilling it, Kelly. Let everyone see you for who you really are. I'll be at the police station tomorrow morning, filing that report. Thank you all for your incredible support after my last post. The last week has been a whirlwind, and nothing I've faced has been what I expected. I thought walking into the police station would be the hardest part, but that was just the beginning. The police treated it like any other case. Since Kelly had access to my Wi-Fi and devices while she stayed with me, they're classifying it as a civil matter. They accepted my application, but they made it clear this would likely end up in small claims court. Not the response I'd hoped for, but at least it's officially on record. Meanwhile, Kelly's so-called adventures in Paris unfold like a grotesque reality show, her every move broadcasted for the world to see. Yesterday, she posted a video flaunting 3 luxe handbags, new shoes, and what she called her Parisian-style closet update. She casually mentioned the amount she spent, an amount that could have covered Koa's surgery and his entire rehabilitation. She even tagged the stores. "Living my dream," she wrote. It's unfathomable. But here's the twist. Violet did some digging, and she discovered something chilling. Kelly has been spinning different stories to different family members. To her aunts, she claimed I offered to help her with a new start. To our cousins, she told them the money was a loan we supposedly agreed on. And to her parents, she painted herself as a victim of my generosity. Because, of course, she's family. The narratives change, but the underlying theme stays the same. I'm the villain here, the one demanding the money back. Kelly's parents called me last night. They offered to give me $2,000 spread over 6 months. As if that's an adequate solution when their daughter stole $12,000 meant for her cousin's disabled child. I told them I'd rather go to court than accept their offer. The silence on the other end of the phone was deafening. Koa, being the perceptive little boy he is, noticed I had put the calendar away. The calendar we'd been using to count down the days until his surgery. I tried to distract him, but his big, trusting eyes pierced right through me. "Is it because Cousin Kelly needs the money more than I do?" he asked. At 7 years old, he's already learning the hard lessons about family. This morning, Kelly texted me, "Look, I get that you're mad, but you're making a big deal out of this. I didn't steal. I borrowed. And anyway, what's the rush? It's not like Koa's dying." That was her response. She's got some nerve. Violet's been helping me document everything, turning it into a spreadsheet that tracks every purchase Kelly posts on social media. "It's evidence," she says. And she's right. Kelly is practically building our case herself with every post. The family is split down the middle now. Half think I should be lenient because Kelly's going through a phase, while the other half is horrified but too scared to get involved. Violet, on the other hand, has been my steadfast ally. She told our aunt, a phase is about a bad haircut or a drummer boyfriend, not about stealing money for a child's surgery. I had to make some tough decisions today. First, I canceled Koa's surgery. The hospital put us back on the waiting list, but we lost our spot. Then I called the bank again. They're still investigating, but at least they've flagged the transfers as unauthorized. Small victories, I suppose. Then, Kelly finally returned my call. Her genius solution? "Why don't you just start a fundraiser or something? I'm not in a position to pay you back right now." When I reminded her of her recent shopping spree, she said, "That's different. I need to look good to get a job. How else am I going to land something?" And then, of course, she posted a long series of Instagram stories about toxic relatives and the importance of putting yourself first. She added motivational quotes about letting go of negative energy and surrounding yourself with people who support your growth. The irony is almost too much to bear. If it weren't so outrageous, I'd laugh. I'm seeing a lawyer next week. Violet found someone who does free initial consultations, but the family has already started calling me dramatic for dragging lawyers into family matters. You know what? I watched Koa try to keep up with his friends at the park today. He was limping but determined, every step full of willpower. That's all the motivation I need to keep going. Latest update. Kelly's back from Paris. Instead of laying low, she throws a Parisian-style party to share her impressions of the trip. And she had the audacity to invite me and Koa. The text message invitation read, "Let's put all this drama behind us." Koa will be thrilled with the gifts I brought him. Gifts. Like a few trinkets from a tourist shop could make up for the $12,000 she stole. I didn't go, but I did something better. I had Violet record the entire thing on her phone. Not secretly, she was open about it, filming just like Kelly does. The whole party was broadcast on Kelly's Instagram stories, her friends laughing and cheering in the background as Kelly bragged about every single purchase. And then, she made a fatal mistake. She posted a video, sitting at some cafe in Paris, glass raised to the camera. "Thanks to my cousin Harvey's savings account for this trip," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Sorry, no apologies." Her friends laughed. She thought it was funny. Violet sent me the video immediately. When Kelly realized what had happened, she went ballistic. She screamed at Violet to delete it. "Was that a joke? Are you trying to ruin the party?" The entire scene descended into chaos. Kelly's parents tried to calm things down, but Kelly kept shouting about being betrayed by the family. Here's where it gets interesting. Remember when Kelly was looking for a job? Turns out she got hired at a local company, a financial coordinator position. Her job description specifically mentions handling financial matters with high ethical standards and confidentiality. That's right. She's about to manage other people's money after stealing from her own flesh and blood. I sent the hiring manager a simple, emotionless email. Just the facts. Links to Kelly's public social media posts with her Paris trip front and center. Here's your future financial coordinator bragging about stealing $12,200 from a fund meant for a child's surgery. No drama, just her own words and actions. Within hours, the job offer was pulled. Kelly had no idea what hit her until she showed up at my house that same night, fists pounding on the door. "How dare you? You ruined my career!" Her voice was wild with rage. Koya was terrified, his small body trembling in my arms. I had no choice but to call the police to get her to leave. The officers recognized her from the earlier theft report. She wasn't getting away with it this time. Kelly's parents finally saw the video from her Paris party, and their tone shifted dramatically. They were no longer defending her. Instead, they were demanding she sell her designer handbags and her Parisian closet to start paying back what she owed. Kelly's response? She locked herself in her old room at their house and flooded Instagram with stories about how she was being attacked by toxic relatives and how no one understood her mental health struggles. The same old excuses, but no one was buying it anymore. The real turning point came at a family dinner at our grandparents' house. Kelly tried to play the victim again, but this time it wasn't working. Our grandfather, a man who never gets involved in family drama, spoke up for the first time in years. He'd been following her posts, watched her flaunt the money that was meant for his great-grandson's surgery. "You bought 3 designer bags while Koya can barely walk," he said, his voice steady, cutting through the tension in the room. There was silence. Heavy silence. Shame washed over Kelly, but not the usual theatrical tears. For the first time, she looked genuinely stunned. No one was defending her anymore. Even her parents, once her strongest supporters, backed me up when I mentioned taking the matter to civil court. She tried to play her last card, desperate. "But I'm family. How can you do this to me?" My answer was simple. Koya's family, too. You chose bags over his ability to walk. The repercussions hit fast and hard. Kelly's mom went through her recent purchases with a fine-toothed comb, and soon everything she'd bought with stolen money was up for sale on resale sites. Kelly's dad called my lawyer to discuss a payment plan. Kelly fought back, but this time she was alone. No more family protectors, no more excuses. The designer handbags sold out fast. The Parisian closet went next. Kelly's parents forced her to move back in with them and took control of her finances, determined to make her pay back every cent. Then came the ugly truth. Paris wasn't the only reckless spending spree she'd been hiding. More debts surfaced. Every time Kelly saw another item for sale, it ignited a new round of drama. Yesterday, she tried to claim that some of the items were gifts, that we had no right to sell them. Her mom shut that down in a heartbeat. "Gifts bought with stolen money are not gifts," she said. "The money's starting to trickle back now. Not enough for Koa's surgery yet, but it's progress. Kelly's dad set up a direct transfer to me, monthly payments until everything's paid off. Kelly tried to undo it all, but they wouldn't let her touch the accounts. The dynamics in the family have shifted completely. She's no longer invited to gatherings, her cousins have unfollowed her on social media, and even her closest friends are distancing themselves, seeing how she's handling the fallout. Last night, Kelly posted new stories, still clinging to her narrative. "Sometimes hitting rock bottom makes you realize who you really are," she wrote, attaching a screenshot of her deleted Paris posts. Maybe reality is finally starting to sink in. Or maybe not. I just got a text from her. "I hope you're happy. My life is ruined and it's all your fault." No, Kelly, you did this to yourself. And now, everyone knows it. The court date is still set for next month, but Kelly's parents are pressuring her to settle before then. One way or another, Koa will get his surgery money back. It's just a matter of time. Final update. I didn't expect to be writing another update, but after yesterday's events, I feel like I have to share. Karma finally caught up with Kelly in a way none of us saw coming. It all started when we were finally able to reschedule Koa's surgery. Kelly's parents had kept up with the monthly payments, and we'd managed to scrape together enough for the down payment. I was sitting in the waiting room, filling out paperwork, when my phone started blowing up with messages. Kelly had shown up at her parents' house, completely hysterical. She'd just been rejected from yet another job. Her past, the lies, the theft, the Paris posts, was haunting her. Every time someone searched her name, those images of her reckless spending came up. The internet forgets nothing. Instead of taking responsibility, she barged into her parents' home, demanding they fix it. Her mom said no. That's when Kelly snapped. She started grabbing her mom's designer bags, screaming that if they were selling her things, she'd sell her own. Her dad, always the silent observer, pulled out his phone and started recording. Not to embarrass her, but because he'd learned the hard way to document everything. The video captured Kelly yelling, "You chose Harvey over me, your own daughter. I hope you're happy with your new favorite." Her mom's response was perfect. "No, we chose right over wrong. We failed you by not teaching you the difference between the two." That's when Kelly lost it completely. She grabbed a vase, an heirloom from our great-grandmother, and smashed it against the wall. The neighbors heard the crash and called the police. When the officers arrived, Kelly tried to tell them that her parents were tormenting her by selling her things. But the cops, who remembered her from previous incidents at my house, didn't buy it. Her parents didn't press charges. Instead, they did something far worse in Kelly's eyes. They disowned her. No more paying her phone bill. No more emergency credit cards. No more living under their roof. Now, Kelly's facing the consequences of her actions alone. And the whole family knows it. They said she needed professional help. "We'll support that," they told her, "but nothing more until you take responsibility." Kelly's reaction? A complete meltdown. She stormed onto social media, posting exposing stories about everyone in the family, most of which were pure fiction. She claimed Viol had been stealing from stores. Total lie. Then she accused me of using the money meant for Koa's surgery on gambling. A complete fabrication. And of course, the ultimate in absurdity. She said her parents had abused her as a child. Spoiled her, actually. It was a master class in deflection, but no one was buying it. Not after everything. Her followers had seen the Instagram stories of her Paris shopping spree, watched her boast about spending money that wasn't hers, and witnessed her gradual breakdown over the months. The comments were brutal. This wasn't the girl who'd stolen money for her disabled cousin's surgery, still playing the victim after stealing from a child. One comment hit hard. "You really thought you could get away with this, huh? Disgusting." She tried deleting them, but the floodgates had opened and nothing would stop it. She posted a tearful video claiming she was being bullied online and needed to take a break for her mental health. It lasted all of 10 minutes before she logged into a backup account and asked if anyone had a spare room where she could crash. No one replied. And here's the real kicker. Remember the financial coordinator job she lost? The company reopened the position. And guess who landed it? Violet. She started last week. When Kelly found out, she showed up at the office, kicking and screaming, demanding to speak with someone. Security had to escort her out. Now, she's also got a trespassing citation to add to her growing list of problems. That night, the family had dinner without her. We were all sitting at the table when Kelly started calling, alternating between threats and tearful apologies. But none of us picked up. Her last message to me was short and bitter. "I hope you're satisfied. You turned everyone against me. I'll never forgive you for this." I didn't respond. I was too busy helping Koya pack an overnight bag for his surgery. His surgery, scheduled for the very next morning. Before she left, Kelly's mom pulled me aside. She was crying, but it wasn't anger. It was something deeper. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking, "for having the courage to stand up to her. We should have done this years ago." But the real surprise came this morning in the form of a package. Inside was an envelope with $2,000 in cash. A note, handwritten and shaky, accompanied it. "To dear Harvey and Koya, this is all the money I have left. I sold my laptop and a few other things. I'm sorry I can't give more. I'm sorry for everything. I know apologies aren't enough, but it's all I have right now. Kelly." I added the money to Koya's recovery fund. Every little bit would help. He would need physical therapy after surgery, and at this point, every dollar counted. As for Kelly, I heard she's living in a youth hostel now. She's using a different name and finally started therapy. Her parents are holding firm, offering to pay for her counseling, but nothing more until they see real change. Koya's surgery is in 12 hours. He's nervous, but excited. This morning, he said something that stopped me cold. "Mom," he said, his voice small but determined. "When I can run, I'll run so fast that all the bad things won't catch up with us." And that, in a way, was it. The end of this chapter. The road ahead is long, but I know that with every step Koya takes, we're moving past the worst of it. "Run fast, baby," I whispered. "You deserve it." This will be my last update. Thank you all for your support through this journey. Sometimes, confronting family is the hardest thing to do, but it's also the most necessary. Second story, The Price of Betrayal. When my mother-in-law, oblivious to the fact that I was scraping together every cent to pay $5,600 in rent, told me to leave, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Michael and Sarah had just returned home for the birth of their first child, and without a hint of warmth, my mother-in-law dropped the bomb. "Please leave," she said, her voice as cold as the marble floors in our entryway. "Michael and Sarah are due in 3 days." I blinked, stunned. "Should I leave?" I asked, my voice trembling with disbelief. "Yes. We don't need another mother figure anymore. You've overstayed your welcome. Michael and his family will be living here now, so you shouldn't be here tomorrow." Her words sliced through me with surgical precision. And just like that, everything that had been unsaid between us for so long, the tension, the passive aggressions, the dismissals, came to light. She wasn't done. "You've failed, Anna. You're barren. Be grateful for what little you've been given." She paused, letting the weight of her cruelty settle before she delivered the final blow. "We don't have to support you anymore. Simon seems tired of you too." Simon. My husband, who had promised to make me feel loved, had somehow become a stranger in all of this. I could feel a lump form in my throat, but I swallowed it back. Was this really a conspiracy between Michael, my mother-in-law, and Simon? It didn't matter. They had all made their stance clear. If this was the life I had to face, I wouldn't stand for it any longer. It was stupid to kick me out. But it wasn't me who started this war. They were the ones who ignored reality for so long, and now they would face its consequences. I didn't care anymore. The house, The rules, the pretenses, it was all a facade, and I wasn't going to be part of it. My name is Anna Thompson. I'm 45 years old, and I've lived with my husband and my mother-in-law in a charming neighborhood near the station for the past few years. The city center was just a short walk away, making it an ideal spot. At least, that's what Simon insisted when we were looking for a new place to live. He'd just been promoted to manager, and his eye for detail led us to a spacious apartment. The rent was astronomical, but the space and the rooms made it feel worthwhile. Simon is 8 years older than me, divorced, and had a son, Michael, from his first marriage. We met through a mutual friend, and I was immediately drawn to his warmth, the kind that only comes from someone who's lived a little longer, seen the world, and had the patience to understand it. We dated for 2 years, and when I told him about my infertility due to a past illness, I expected him to pull away. But he didn't. His affection never wavered. When I learned about his past marriage, I felt a pang of sympathy, but nothing changed between us. We made a life together, even after he confessed his son was more of a duty to him than a source of joy. "Don't worry," he had told me, his voice soft but firm. "You'll never have to feel like an outsider. I'll make sure you're happy." So, to give me my own space, Simon suggested we move into a bigger apartment. Michael, then 10, didn't require much attention, especially with his grandmother around. "You won't have to work yourself to the bone," he said. After Simon's divorce, his mother had taken over much of Michael's care, especially after Simon's father passed away. But when I first met Michael, he barely acknowledged me. At first, I chalked it up to shyness, or maybe the awkwardness of blending two families together. I tried not to let it bother me, especially since my mother-in-law seemed calm, collected, and refined. Maybe, I thought, we'd learn to navigate this new dynamic together. When I introduced myself after our engagement, she greeted me with grace and politeness. "We'll get along just fine," she said with a smile, her words oozing with false hospitality. "I'll cook. You can handle the cleaning and laundry. Let's make this work." But as time passed, I began to understand what that smile really meant. It wasn't acceptance, it was a mask. I left my full-time pharmacy job to work part-time and devote myself to managing the house, which only deepened the divide. Simon often came home late, and by the time I arrived home from work, dinner was already over. My mother-in-law and Michael had eaten early, leaving me alone at the table, a solitary figure in a home that never quite felt like mine. I tried to reach out to Michael, tried to bond, tried to fit in, but every time I made an effort, he pulled away. One day I asked him, "Michael, when's your school's activity day? I want to go see you." He hesitated, his eyes shifting uneasily. "Number, it's for me and my mom. You don't need to come." Before I could say anything, my mother-in-law stepped in. "Simon and I will go alone. You have nothing to worry about." The words stung, though I tried to convince myself it was just her being protective. But deep down, I knew better. That night, I told Simon about it, and his response was a punch to the gut. "She's attached to Michael. She thinks you're trying to take him from her. I'll talk to her about it." I thought it would get better with time, but it didn't. Eventually, I started showing up at school events, trying to be the supportive stepmother I thought I could be. But Michael continued to pull away, and when we weren't at school, our interactions were minimal. And that was when I learned the truth. My mother-in-law had been poisoning him against me all along. "She says she'll be happier with Simon if you weren't around," I overheard Michael telling his friends one day. "She's a liar." That was the moment I realized the battle had already been lost, and I hadn't even seen it coming. By the time Michael left for college, I'd become nothing more than a shadow in the house. He moved in with his girlfriend, and my mother-in-law seemed to retreat even further. No longer cooking, no longer cleaning. She simply sat at the table, waiting for me to return, waiting for me to be the one to make it right, as if I had ever been a part of her world. Without a moment's pause, I found myself in the kitchen, slaving away over dinner. My mother-in-law's voice cut through the quiet, dripping with disdain. "You're so slow. At this rate, you won't be done by nightfall," she sneered. Cooking had never been my forte, not because I didn't want to, but because I'd always relied on her to handle it. Whenever I attempted to cook, she would taste each dish with a scowl, always critical. "It doesn't taste good," she'd declare, as if it were a personal offense. I would swallow my frustration, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm sorry. I'm trying." Her gaze never wavered as she mocked me. "You have an astonishing lack of taste, Anna. It's a miracle Michael didn't spit your food out. That would have been dreadful." If she didn't like it so much, why didn't she just cook herself? But no, she found some twisted pleasure in tearing me down, not just for my cooking, but for everything else too. The cleaning, the laundry, everything I did became fodder for her sharp tongue. "Why are there so many folds in the laundry? Did they not teach you how to do things properly? Don't you know how to vacuum every corner?" She sighed in exasperation, clearly enjoying my discomfort. Every word felt like a needle pushing deeper into my skin, humiliating me in front of a family that had never truly accepted me. And then, the cruelest jab of all. "I don't know what Simon sees in you. You have no charm, no grace. If you weren't here, Michael would never have left." I clenched my fists, the sting of her words echoing in my bones. Maybe I had been a stranger from the moment I married Simon, a stranger in my own home, and I could feel the void in her heart, the emptiness that had spread after Michael left. Perhaps it was a classic case of empty nest syndrome. I wasn't sure. But in my mind, I convinced myself that if lashing out at me made her feel better, I could tolerate it. After all, she was still family. But when Sarah, Michael's wife, announced that she was pregnant, I saw a new side of my mother-in-law. Her joy was boundless, almost to the point of obsession. "Michael's baby, my first grandchild," she gushed, as if the mere mention of the word grandchild would make her the happiest woman alive. It should have made me happy too. I smiled. I wanted to be happy for them, but something about her enthusiasm felt excessive, as though it weren't just about the baby. It was about her need to control, to reclaim a place she felt she'd lost. And then, the request. Michael called. "Grandma, can Sarah give birth here? Her family's an hour away, and they don't have anyone here to help." Of course, my mother-in-law couldn't refuse. She immediately sprang into action, as if Michael had asked for her life's purpose. The calls, the preparations, the frantic energy that consumed her. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to bring her a child to raise, just like Michael. She started with Michael's room. Cleaning, waxing, arranging. Everything had to be perfect. And naturally, I had to help. Coming home from work, I was greeted with her latest triumphs. "Anna, I vacuumed 3 floors, washed the windows, waxed everything," she said, as if expecting applause. "And this weekend, we'll buy a crib." I felt my exhaustion hit me like a wave, but there was no escaping it. If I tried to skip a corner or cut a corner, I was told to redo it. She started demanding money for all these baby items, And before I knew it, the house was filled with cribs, toys, blankets, everything for the baby that wasn't even here yet. "Anna, take some money off tomorrow. I need to buy more things," she insisted one evening. My nerves were fraying. Are we buying too much? Sarah and Michael aren't even here yet. Maybe we should wait until they arrive and pick things together? I tried to be delicate, but her reaction was swift and furious. "How can you be so insensitive? It's Simon's grandson," she snapped, her voice dripping with venom. "Oh, that's right. You're not related to Michael. You don't care, do you?" The words stung more than they should have. I shook my head, trying to calm the storm inside me. "That's not true. I just thought Sarah might want to choose some of these things for her baby." I saw the flicker of something cold in her eyes. I had struck a nerve. She gave me a scorching look, turned, and marched to her room in silence. I didn't know how to fix it. The next morning, I went to apologize, but she was already sitting at the table, stone-faced and distant. "I'm sorry about yesterday. I think I overreacted," I said softly. She didn't respond. Instead, she spoke, her voice as icy as before. "Michael and Sarah are coming. Make room." Her words hit like a slap. Cold. Final. I froze, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what she was saying. In 3 days, Michael and his wife would be here to give birth, and I was to leave, just like that. "Should I leave?" I asked, the words feeling like acid on my tongue. "Yes," she confirmed, her eyes devoid of any warmth. "We don't need another mother. You've been redundant for a long time. Michael and his family will be living here now. You shouldn't be here tomorrow." The ache inside me was sharp, unbearable. I'd never truly been accepted into this family. From the moment I married Simon, I had been a stranger. And now, with Michael's return, everything fell into place. "You're an infertile failure," my mother-in-law continued, her words cold as ice. "You've been given a chance to raise a child. Be grateful." Her words were designed to cut, to break me. "We don't have to support you," she added, her voice dripping with venom. "It sounds like Simon's tired of you. Maybe he's been with someone else for a long time." I wanted to shout, to defend myself, but I was hollow inside. Her words had dug into me, into places I didn't know existed. It wasn't just about the house. It wasn't about Michael. It was about something deeper, something I couldn't change. This family would never be mine. Stunned, I stood there, my heart pounding, the cold realization sinking in like a dagger. I had been fooling myself, hadn't I? Believing that my husband was incapable of such betrayal. How had I missed the signs? He hadn't had any overnight business trips until last year, a detail I should have noticed. "Fine," I muttered, my voice flat, as if the words had no weight. "I'll eat somewhere tonight." Grabbing my bag, I walked out of the house with no destination in mind, my steps heavy, like the weight of my thoughts. I needed to calm my racing heart. But no matter how much I tried to convince myself that things were fine, doubt gnawed at me. I dialed Simon's number, my finger trembling on the screen. Again and again I tried, but no answer. The unanswered calls only amplified the chaos in my mind. "Called the office," his secretary finally said, a feigned cheerfulness in her voice. He'd taken a few days off. The words echoed in my mind, taken a few days off. And now my mother-in-law's harsh words began to take root. Was it possible? Was he really with another woman? Tears burned my eyes. The truth felt too close, too ugly to ignore. I stumbled forward, blindly seeking something to numb the pain. My feet led me to the tavern behind the station, the very place Simon and I used to visit when we'd first moved in. It was still here. She's still here, I thought bitterly, pushing the door open. The owner looked up, his face briefly darkening when he saw me, but then his recognition softened into a weary nod. "Welcome back," he said, the words almost mechanical, as if the past was something to be buried. "It's been a long time. About 8 years. I used to come here with my husband," I said, trying to sound casual, but it felt like a mask slipping off. "Yeah, I remember," he muttered. His tone was distant, indifferent. I forced a smile, relieved to hear something familiar. "I'll have a beer and grilled chicken tenders," I ordered, my voice trembling more than I wanted to admit. The owner gave a curt nod, his face unreadable. As the cold beer slid down my throat and the crispy chicken tendered to my hunger, I felt the day's tension slip away, if only for a moment. I pulled out my phone, scrolling aimlessly as I tried to distract myself from the gnawing anxiety. The screensaver lit up, a picture of me and Michael at 18, dressed in our finest suits, the day we had spent together picking out clothes for our first formal event. My fingers hovered over the photo, a lump in my throat. How much had I longed for this family to feel real? I downed another sip of beer, letting it numb the sadness. Will I be able to leave tomorrow? The thought crossed my mind, and before I knew it, I was searching for moving companies. I found one with a vacant slot for the next day and saved the contact information for 2 junk removal firms. Changing the screensaver, I could almost feel my mind clearing, like the clutter in my heart was being swept away. I sat there for a while longer, just savoring the beer and the chicken, the sense of quiet that seemed so fleeting these days. But as I stood up to leave, a young waitress dashed toward me. "Excuse me, are you Mrs. Thompson?" Her words were cautious, but her eyes were filled with a strange intensity. "I saw your screensaver," she said, her voice lower now. "I know who you are, and I need to tell you something." I froze, my blood running cold. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, almost as if she were afraid to say it. "Your husband is cheating on you, with one of our employees. We exchanged numbers and she promised to keep me updated on things." My breath caught in my throat. My mother-in-law had been right. The cruel, cutting words she'd thrown at me all started to line up. This wasn't just a possibility. It was happening. The woman wasn't just some vague rumor. She was real. Instead of tears, a surge of fury swept over me. I didn't need to be sad. I needed to act. This was the moment I would take control. Tomorrow was the day I'd leave. The truth was clear. If this wasn't some sick conspiracy between my mother-in-law and Michael, then I had no reason to respect Simon anymore. None. Back home, I packed with an urgency I hadn't known I was capable of. Midnight passed, and still I was at it, filling boxes, making decisions with a quiet determination. When the movers arrived the next morning, I made it clear. I was done. They took everything I bought, everything that had once been mine, that I had worked for. Each item, each trace of my presence was erased. My mother-in-law panicked. She begged me to stay, but I stood firm. "I'm taking everything that's mine," I said, my voice cool, almost detached. "You can start your new life tomorrow." She protested, but there was nothing she could do. She could yell, but I wasn't listening. All that remained in the house were the children's things and her old dresser from before she'd married Simon. I took a deep breath, feeling something like a twisted sense of satisfaction settle in my chest. "Well, farewell," I said, my lips curling into a smile that didn't reach my eyes. There shouldn't be a trace of me left. Enjoy your new life with Simon, Michael, and his family." I placed my keys on the table and walked out the door. The movers held my things, and I made my way to a lonely coworker's house, a temporary refuge. I slept soundly that night, a strange peace settling over me. A week later, Simon called. I could hear it in his voice. He was stalling, trying to figure out how to manipulate me back into his arms. But a deep pit of doubt gnawed at me. Was he really with that woman? And then, like some twisted twist of fate, I got a text from the girl at the tavern. "I took a picture. I'll send it to you," she wrote. A few seconds later, my phone pinged. It was a photo of Simon, flirting with an older woman at the bar, his arm draped around her. The next picture showed them entering a hotel together. Even now, he was betraying me. I stared at the photo, a cold detachment overtaking me. So this was it. The last of my feelings for him were gone. All of it had evaporated. I got the woman's name and address. The next day, I received a call from Simon. "Anna, where are you?" His voice was urgent, but I could hear the anxiety behind it. "Michael and his family are here. You're not coming back?" "No," I replied flatly. "Your mother told me to leave, and I'm done." He stammered. "But Michael and his family are going to live with you, aren't they?" I couldn't help the bitterness that rose. "They don't have any money and they want to live with us," I replied, mocking the situation. "You know that." There was a long silence. Simon was trying to gather his thoughts, but I wasn't going to make it easy for him. "You didn't like me. Your mother didn't like me. I was just a stranger in your house," I continued, the words feeling like a weight lifting off my chest. "I think they're glad the house is theirs now." Simon fell silent. The truth was clear to both of us. He had been blind to it, but he knew I was right. A few days later, I walked back into the house. Everything was different. New furniture, new appliances. Michael and Sarah were sprawled on the couch, barely acknowledging my presence. My mother-in-law shot me a furious look as I walked in, but I didn't care. I moved to sit, but Michael spoke first. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his tone sharp. "You took everything from the house. Who does that? Who kept up with you?" I sighed, tired of the game. "You had it easy. Everything was handed to you." "I took everything because I bought it," I replied, my voice cold. "I wanted to leave just as you asked." "That's bullshit," Simon sneered, his face twisted in disbelief. "You couldn't have bought all that with a part-time job at the drugstore." I looked at him, my heart heavy with disappointment. "We've been living off what we earned together for years, Simon," I said, each word piercing the silence. "I've been covering the shortfall for 5 years. I paid the rent, while you pretended everything was fine." My mother-in-law's eyes widened. She hadn't known. She hadn't wanted to know. "But I'm not just an assistant," I added, my voice low and measured. "I'm a part-time pharmacist, and I've been supporting this family for a long time." "And the pay is good," I said, my voice steady, as if I were handing down a simple fact. "I make more than you." Simon didn't meet my eyes. He stared at the floor, avoiding my gaze, while his mother's eyes darted between us like a rabbit caught in headlights. I could feel her discomfort, but I didn't care. "Now, Michael," I continued, my voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "You'll be paying rent. If you're going to live here, after everything your grandmother's done for you, it's time for you to start taking care of her." Michael blinked, clearly taken aback. "Rent? How much?" he asked, his voice thick with disbelief. $5,600, I said, without a flicker of hesitation. "Good luck. My role as a mother is over. I'm not responsible for you anymore, You've got a baby on the way. Time to grow up." Michael muttered under his breath, shaking his head. "This is unreal," he said, like he couldn't quite wrap his mind around it. Sarah, her eyes wide in shock, finally spoke up. $5,600? Isn't this supposed to be a free place for us to live? We were covering rent and expenses, not paying you." I almost laughed at the naivety. "Don't worry, Sarah," I said, almost too sweetly. "You'll find a place that's cheaper. After all, Simon's still making good money." Sarah relaxed a little, the tension slipping from her shoulders. But then I turned to Simon, my voice sharp. "By the way, Simon, now that I'm out of your life with your mistress, things are going to get complicated for you." Sarah's face drained of color, her lips trembling as she burst into tears. Simon's panic was immediate. "What? What are you talking about?" His voice wavered. "Your mother told me everything about the other woman," I said, watching as he froze. "It's time for her to finish her role as my wife," I added coldly, the words hanging in the air between us like an accusation. "There's no evidence," Simon muttered, as though repeating it would make it true. "It's been less than 10 days since I left." I leaned in, my voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. "Won't Mary be offended when she finds out? You know, the woman you've been seeing?" The mention of her name made Simon visibly flinch, like I'd struck him. His face contorted. His hand went to his forehead in a reflexive gesture of frustration. I could see the walls he'd built around himself beginning to crumble. He knew I had all the details. "I'm done with the games," I said, standing up, my bag slung over my shoulder. "This isn't a time for divorce papers. I'm going to take care of it through the lawyer. It's done." Neither Simon nor Michael spoke a word. They sat there in silence, like they were paralyzed by the truth of it all. But my mother-in-law, seeing my resolve, erupted. She slammed her palm on the table with a fury that surprised me for someone her age. "What the hell? Is this your fault? Our whole house is falling apart because of you." Anger surged through me, the years of resentment and pent-up frustration finally spilling over. "You told me to leave. You said Simon had someone else. You ruined everything, all because of you," I shouted, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. My words landed with a force that seemed to paralyze her. She was trembling now, her lips pressed tightly together, but I wasn't finished. "This has nothing to do with Michael," I continued, voice low but seething. "It's time for you to get smart. Simon's drowning. He needs you to support him, like a wife." She stared at me, confusion mingling with anger in her eyes. But I could feel the shift. I wasn't the helpless wife anymore. "If you hadn't opened your mouth, if you hadn't planted those seeds of doubt, I would have still been supporting Simon. I would have believed in him," I added, my words sharp and bitter. Michael just sat there, completely dumbfounded. His eyes were wide, but he didn't say a word. My mother-in-law's silence was deafening. I stepped around her, not bothering to look back as I walked toward the door, leaving them all behind. Days passed, and Simon didn't even fight the divorce. The evidence was irrefutable. The affair was a fact, not a rumor. And so, life began to move on, albeit in a disjointed, messy way. Michael and Sarah eventually moved back into their own place, not staying with their grandmother anymore. Simon, now contemplating his future, seemed to be thinking about remarrying, but Mary wasn't having any of it. The alimony battle had started, and Mary was furious about Simon's request to live with his mother. It was laughable, really. Simon had never been able to see what was right in front of him. The whispers I'd heard about Simon's mother's fate were unsettling. Word was, they were debating sending her to a nursing home. After all the years of her trying to control everything, of her being the matriarch, they were finally abandoning her. I almost felt sorry for her, but not quite. It was hard to pity someone who had tried to ruin everything for me. If she had kept her mouth shut, if she'd only let Michael and Sarah have their baby visit without causing a scene, maybe we could have still been together as a family. Maybe we could have found a way, but she hadn't. After the divorce, Michael sent me a letter. It was a pitiful, half-hearted apology, filled with self-pity and regret. He wrote about how, as a child, he had wanted me to spoil him, how he had never been able to talk to me because of his grandmother, how excited he was when I showed up at school events, how he wished we could have been closer. Maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe things could have been different. But I had tried, in my own way, and now I knew it was too late. Still, part of me wished him happiness. It was a strange, bittersweet feeling. He was just a victim of the mess his mother had made. I went back to work as a pharmacist, renting a small apartment near the pharmacy. I couldn't bring myself to keep the furniture and appliances I'd taken from the house. It all felt like a lie now. So I called a recycling service and had everything hauled away. Life without the constant nagging, without the endless expectations, was finally peaceful. I was living for myself and not for anyone else. I could breathe again, free from the weight of everyone else's desires. It was a quiet kind of happiness, but it was mine. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world and helps us keep creating more amazing content for you. See you in the next one.